Yeah, I mean that's really what the whole record is about, really. Um, kind of new beginnings, you know what I mean? And killing time to us meant killing time waiting for like kind of the next big step in your life, you know. And it's certainly this kind of new label, new record thing is absolutely it's a new beginning.
Kind of came after we signed.
After, yeah.
We had talked a lot about the record and what we wanted the record to be before we hooked up with Wind Up, and then kind of in the process of meeting with labels, Wind Up seemed to be the most in tune with what we are as a band and what we wanted to do, the direction that we wanted to go in. So it seemed like a natural fit, and then we went ahead with the album from there.
Yeah, I mean the thing that we liked the most about them, because you know we finished our contract with Victory, so we were free agents for a little bit, and we started talking to a bunch of different labels. And the thing that we liked most about Wind Up was that they really seemed to get who we were and like who we were, you know, and they wanted to sign up for like what Bayside was about, you know, and not try to mold us. I think they knew that if they were looking for somebody to mold into the next creed, they could have found that somewhere else, you know. We've never been like a real business-minded band. We kind of live in the moment.
Yeah, I feel like we were we were going to proceed in whichever direction offered us the best opportunity to grow in the way that we wanted to grow. And at the time, that was Wind Up for sure. It felt like the opportunities that Victory was presenting towards the end of our contract didn't seem to meet the direction that we wanted to be headed in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but to answer your question, we weren't totally like we didn't have a calendar with X's on it or anything. As far as the process, everything changed. I mean, we did it completely differently than we've ever done any record. I mean, every other record we've done, we've written on the road, you know, in hotel rooms or on the bus, within a matter of a month or two. You know, we like scrambled to get something together, and then we're off the road just long enough to get into the studio and rush through recording it. You know,
and then it's out in stores before we get back on the road.
Yeah, and then it's out in stores immediately, and then you listen to it, and there's a million things that you would have done differently. You know, but had you had the time to try some ideas, you know. This was the opposite. I mean, we spent just about a year writing and recording this record. I mean, on 666, that was the chorus that's on the record is like the fifth or sixth chorus that I wrote for that song, because there's actually demos that exist where, you know, we wrote the song and then demoed it and listened to it and lived with it for a while and thought of things that we could do better, you know, and that's how the whole process was. The writing and recording was kind of rethinking and rethinking. Yeah.
Well, I think by the time we got to actually recording everything, I mean, this is at the end of a year of having worked on them. So, I mean, the songs definitely evolved over the course of the year, but I felt like by the time we got to actually sit down in the studio and record them, everything had been worked on to such a point that it was all rehearsed and ready to be recorded, which is something that, again, we've never felt as a band, going into the studio with material that is functionally ready to record. Because I do think, you know, when, again, working with like a 2-month schedule of write and record, a lot of that development comes during tracking and during the actual recording process. So it was nice to kind of go in with something that we already believed in fully and had already had chance to really live with and rehearse to the point where recording became a really easy thing. It was nice.
Yeah, there was definitely things that that took huge left turns. I mean, anywhere between within the writing or the demoing or the pre-production or the recording process. I mean, like on Love on Life, for instance, was 3 different songs, and then we were in the studio, and I was sitting. We recorded most of the record up in the woods in Woodstock, and we were living in this giant like church house thing with a bunch of rooms in it. And I was sitting in Gil's bedroom on his bed with him and fully clothed with a guitar, and I was playing him all these ideas I had, and we were like, why don't we just put them all together? Why don't we make that all one song? So that became a song, and then we were like, well, why don't we play it on piano instead? So I mean, that went from being 3 different like electric full band songs to one song on a piano. You know what I mean? While we were in the studio. Yeah, he was. There was a shake weight in the room though. Gil was really into the shake weight when it came out. Yeah, we were in Woodstock at Dreamland, which is a really, really cool studio.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I loved it there. It was owned by Jerry Murata, who's he played drums for Peter Gabriel for a long time, and kind of a session session guy, you know.
We got hooked up with that studio. We had actually done a week of writing where we decided we wanted to kind of disappear and go off together as a band to work on some stuff, and we had actually rented his house.
Yeah, we rented Jerry's house. We were like,
not his second house, his actual house.
Yeah,
I think he was sleeping on the floor somewhere.
He was sleeping in the studio.
Oh yeah.
He was sleeping at Dreamland, and we were
While we were at his house.
we were like writing in his house. Like I think I was sleeping in his bed.
I was definitely sleeping in a little kid's bed with like a fish tank and a bunch of toy guns around.
Yeah, when we work with people, I always like to try to spend some time in their bed at some point. I feel like that's how you really get to know somebody. So I was sleeping in Jerry Murata's bed while he was sleeping somewhere else.
Yeah. But that's kind of how we got hooked up with Dreamland anyway. I feel like he was kind of like, hey, when you guys are going to track this, you should come check out my studio.
Yeah, it's a really cool studio. It's huge. It's like a huge old church that's been, turned into a studio, obviously, with kind of like a farmhouse, 2 farmhouses attached on the property with like 5 bedrooms. And it's cool. It was really cool. And then we did, we knew that when we were planning, we knew that if we spent too long up in the country that we would kind of go crazy. We didn't want that vibe the same way that we wanted to get away from the city for a little bit. So the rest of it we did at Water Street in Hoboken, which is kind of, which was basically like being home. We were
it was pretty much
home pretty often. So we wanted to mix it up. We wanted to be away for a little while and be in the woods for a little while, and then we wanted to be in the city and home-ish for a little while.
It was kind of a fluke. We were talking about producers. He was kind of the top of the list, and it was a reach for us for sure. But we figured why not, and sent out demos, and he responded back.
I remember when we were on our first or second tour we ever did. I remember sitting in the van, and Color and the Shape came out, and went and bought the CD, sitting in the van listening to it on my Discman, and I was like, this is the best sounding rock record I've ever heard. Like, every tone is perfect, everything's perfect. I remember going through the liner notes, and it was the first time I saw Gil's name, and I looked further into it, and Counting Crows, and he went on later to do Jimmy World and the Pixies and Echo and the Bunnymen. And so, I mean, practically since we started the band, it's always been like a dream to like, this guy's got to do our record one day. So when we were doing this record, we were like, all right, let's send him demos, and he's probably not going to answer, but let's send him demos. And he wrote back, and he said that, or his manager wrote back to our manager, and said that he liked the demos. He wanted to be a part of it, which we were blown away by that.